And welcome to today's edition of Dr. Carol's Couch. I'm your psychiatrist host, Dr. Carole Lieberman. Today we're going to be talking about, is it possible to save America for another 250 years? Well, today the news goes around at record speed. Not only are there so many issues and news stories to stay on top of, but it's hard to know who's telling the truth. You're not going to have this problem with today's guest. Josh Bernstein, he's the author of a book called Preserving Liberty: Bold and Brave Solutions to Save America and Create Permanent Freedom. He's the host of a top-rated show called Josh Bernstein Show. He's also a TV analyst and political commentator. And in fact, the truth is so important to him that he risked his whole career to tell it and has been censored for it. Now, this shouldn't happen in America, obviously, but wait till you hear this story. It'll maybe make you rethink some of the things and what we need to do to keep America free. Welcome to the show, Josh.
It's great to be on the program with you.
Well, I was honored to be on your show recently, and one of the things that came up that I didn't know about you was about your whole uh, the whole trauma, the whole tragedy, actually. Although you seem to have come up at the other end, but anyway, I'll let you tell that part. Um, how you became, I'm a psychiatrist. So of course, I'm always interested with my guests, what brought them to where they are today?
Sure, sure.
Starting with where you were born,
Yeah, yeah,
your parents, and
sure.
then what made you feel so strongly about America that you did what you did and exposed what you exposed and then got censored for it?
Well, the short answer is 9/11. The longer answer is what I'll go through with you right now. I grew up in New Jersey and not really in a political household, so to speak. Never really talked about politics much. And at 21 years old, I decided to leave New Jersey and I went out west. Had my reasons for doing it. Basically, I didn't want to get stuck in the same area, talking to the same people 30 years later in the same town. And I felt, well, there's got to be something more to life than this. So I was at a certain job and I got into a minor car accident. And while the car was being fixed, I was taking the bus to this job that I didn't really like. And I ended up meeting someone from high school that was also on the bus.
Hmm.
Turns out that he was a trust fund baby, had his parents were loaded, and he was going to be traveling around the United States to go see the Grateful Dead at the time.
Hmm.
So I saw this as an opportunity. Well, if I'm ever really going to do this, being the baby, the youngest of three, older brother, older sister, this would be my opportunity. So in conversation with him, I said, "Hey, do you want to travel across the country together?" And he's like, "Yeah, man, no problem. Where do you want to go?" And then I was like, "Well, I have my ideas. I have some friends of the family in Arizona, and I wanted to always check out Arizona." He's like, "Yeah, man, let's go." I was like, "Well, wait a minute. We got to plan this thing out. We can't leave tomorrow." So we planned the whole thing out. My older brother actually has bicycled across the country twice.
Yeah.
Imagine that, with a group of people. So he knew where all the campgrounds were. He knew where everything was, where to stop. And it was really an incredible journey across the country, I have to say. I mean, this was February of 1996. So this was shortly after the Oklahoma City bombing. So we went through Oklahoma City. And we saw so many interesting things, and that's the way to see America if you've never had a chance to travel in a car across the country. It's really quite the experience. And so got to Arizona and met with the folks that I was going to be staying with. And I've been here pretty much ever since. I got a job, got things lined up, got an apartment, eventually got married and had my son. And so was kind of trapped in paradise, so to speak. So I've been here over 30 years. And I really kind of got into politics, so to speak. I actually was a poet, believe it or not.
Hmm.
And I have a Library of Congress number and things like that. I've written quite a few. And so I kind of changed that from poetry and creative writing into politics, mainly because of 9/11. At the time, I was running car dealerships in Scottsdale, Arizona, when 9/11 happened. And, growing up in that area, especially where, the towers were, I was only 22 miles maybe from New York City in New Jersey, in Union County. And we actually have a town called Mountainside, where if you drive up this area, it's beautiful homes. You can look over and see the New York skyline.
Mm.
And I just saw that New York skyline smoldering in the distance for a very long time when I went back on a vacation. And it was at that point I wanted to know the where, the when, the who, the where, the why. Why did this happen? How did this happen? And that's when I kind of discovered talk radio. And if anyone has listened to talk radio, Michael Savage, of course, the great Rush Limbaugh, you end up getting a degree in political science pretty quickly if you listen to it each and every day. You find out things that won't even be talked about in media for years from now. But yet, if you're in the realm of talk radio and kind of plugged in, you'll learn a lot of different things. So I started listening to a lot of that stuff and started doing my own investigations. What happened? How did 9/11 happen? Found out about Abel Danger, congressman from Pennsylvania, talked
What,
about that.
I don't know about that.
Able
Around.
Danger was basically the secret program that they were Muhammad Atta and the rest of these folks.
Oh.
They were in Berlin, Germany, and they were planning the whole thing out. And what's interesting is that for Bill Clinton at the time, he had a lady working for him named Jamie Gorelick. And Jamie Gorelick, for whatever reason, put up a wall. Maybe there was a distrust issue, what have you, between the FBI, the CIA, and other intelligence agencies. So they were no longer sharing information like they do now. And because of that, they missed basically Able Danger and what they were planning on doing. And there was a congressman in Pennsylvania, whose name escapes me right now, that tried to bring this forward before it happened. I mean, look, when you find out that people are taking flight lessons around the country but not wanting to learn how to land, you might want to you might want to look into that a little bit further, so to speak. And so I kind of did my research, kind of fell in love with politics from that point, and then I started to realize, wait a minute, the media, or as I like to call them, prostitutes, are really just not accurate, and they have an agenda, and they talk about certain things, or they leave things out, or they edit things, or they misrepresent things, And I just kind of learned that, and then I started looking at commercials, and there's a white child and a white and a black child and a Asian child, and like, is that random? No, that's kind of on purpose. And then of course the political, correctness starting and all of that stuff. So really, long story short, the reason I got censored is because I've always been brave and bold and speak the truth no matter the consequences. And I remember in 2017, I keep hearing this name, Ilhan Omar, and I didn't really know who it was. So did some research, found out this was a state representative in Minnesota. And what struck me about her is that she was one of only two Minnesota Democrats that voted to not ban female genital mutilation.
Mm.
And I thought, gosh, that's really strange. Why is that? And I looked a little bit further. She was a Muslim woman. And then I started doing even more research. And then I started to realize, okay, this person now wants to run for Congress. So she was already on my radar as a state rep. Now all of a sudden she wants to run for Congress. So we do a deep dive into her background. The lie with Ilhan is that she escaped war-torn Somalia and she moved to America for a better life. That's what she told the media, and the media gobbled it up and didn't even bother to check. Well, the reality is that that is the furthest thing from the truth. She was war-torn Somalia. Her father, Muhammad Nuar, was the propaganda minister for Saeed Bayar's dictatorship. So, in other words, she was part of a dictatorship that was going around and killing people in the country. At the time, they were now being overtaken by another, crazy cartel of murderous people, and they had to escape Somalia. So they either paid off someone for the Omar name because her real name is Ilhan Noor Saeed Elmi. She did marry her brother. That's fact. I've seen the certificates, so there's no question on that. And basically, what happened is she either got the Omar name, she bought it, stole it, whatever. And the whole family came over here to escape being executed by Saeed Bayar's regime that was being overtaken, the regime that was coming in. And so they lied on their N-400 immigration forms. Have you ever been close to or associated with any type of totalitarian regime? No. Well, that was obviously a lie. And they came here under false pretenses. And when she ran for Congress, I've said it before and I'll say it again, she infiltrated Congress. There's no question about it. And so I started to expose that. And I said, she's close to CARE. CARE is a terrorist organization designated as such in 2014 by the United Arab Emirates. And she's close to Hamas and Hezbollah and some of these other groups. And so I started to point all that out. And then, of course, she said some really horrific things. Some people did some things. And so she just started to kind of really get on my radar. So when we exposed that, after that, I, of course, was completely, admonished, called a monster and a racist and a xenophobe and Islamophobe
Well,
and every
by
other phobe you
who?
can imagine.
Like, by who?
Well,
I mean,
I
how
did
did
a I
that?
did a video and it was a 24-minute video that they cut 44 seconds of and put all over the place because I said she should be arrested, she should be investigated, should be arrested, indicted, thrown in jail, or better yet, executed. Well, that's all I had to say because that's what the headlines were all over the media, MSNBC, everywhere. And then she retweeted the articles that it was written about. And then I had people like Geraldo Rivera putting at FBI, arrest this punk, and like all kinds of crazy stuff. And from that, I lost basically most of my accounts on pretty much everything from X to Facebook to Patreon to LinkedIn to many others. And then about 2 weeks before the election, Russell Ramsland was showing votes being switched live on CNN in the Andy Beshear, Matt Bevin Kentucky governor's race. And they
Mhm.
were literally taking 5,000 votes away in a split second from Matt Bevin, who, by the way, won that race and should have been the governor. And they gave it to Beshear. And they were doing it in a split second. And he was showing us how that was happening. So I put the video out on YouTube and I was trying to tell everyone this is 2 weeks before the 2020 election. I said, this is going to happen in 2 weeks. Okay. And I'm circling it. I'm slowing down the video. It's got 980,000 views on it in 36 hours. And from that, boom, lost both of my YouTube channels. So I basically went from being on Amazon Prime, Roku television, all over social media, everywhere, really, millions and millions of views, and pretty much ghosted within about a 72-hour period. And that happened, like I said, right before the 2020 election. So they tried to shut me down completely before the election so that I wouldn't have the ability to reach more people and let them know about the fraudulent, election that's going to happen 2 weeks later. And so from that, I
Well,
started
wait,
my
wait,
own.
wait.
Go ahead.
So, like, who? But like, who? Um,
Well, the groups that attacked me were Huffington Post, MSN. The one that really got me was People for the American Way and their attack arm, which is known as Right Wing Watch.
hmm,
If anyone really wants to have any fun, you can go to Google, put in my name, Right Wing Watch, and you'll find 386 different things
okay.
they've written about me throughout the years.
But why?
Most of it true, most of it true, but that's okay. Um, but
um,
so they took things out of context. Obviously, I didn't get them
but
knocked at the door or anything.
I mean, weren't there people who, like, let's take Elon Omar. I mean, I think
She
she should be.
retweeted the articles directly and to her millions of people on Twitter at the time.
Wait, who retweeted the articles? She
She
did.
did directly.
Why did she
Ilhan
do
did.
that?
2019.
No, no. Why did she do that?
Because the people that were attacking me started
Oh,
off with Josh Bernstein calls for the execution of Congresswoman Ilhan Omar,
oh,
which of
she.
course they
Okay,
took
wait.
right. So we
She
took it out of
she
context.
retweeted or
The
posted
articles that were
the
written
articles
about me.
against you.
Correct.
Okay. I thought
Correct.
you meant okay.
Right.
So, but why would there be? I mean, Ilhan Omar has overstayed her welcome for a long, long time, way before she got into Congress. And we know that she married her brother. Why isn't she out of America?
That's a question I can't answer, but what I can answer is because I exposed her 6 to almost 7 years before anyone else did, I
Mhm.
did it first. And because I did it first, I took the brunt of the
Yes.
censorship. Now you can look at Gutfeld, any one of these people, they're talking about her and her brother, they're making
Yes.
memes, they're joking about it, and I'm sitting here fuming, going, my God,
I told
look
you
what I
this.
had to suffer through, and these people can now say whatever they want. So in some respects, I guess I kind of took the bullets and the targets so that future people like Benny Johnson and others could
Uh-huh.
actually talk freely in America. That's the
Uh-huh.
reality.
Okay, but still, okay, so people, yes, people are talking. I talk about her.
Hmm.
But um but so why hasn't anyone done anything why hasn't anyone legally done anything to get rid of her?
You know what? I don't know. I think she should be denaturalized. I think there's plenty of information that you could use for denaturalization and deportation. I just think maybe they're just afraid, like, oh, you'll be called a racist and a xenophobe and a Islamophobe if you take out Mandani and you take out, all these other people, and they won't do it. I mean, look, we can't even get the Save America Act passed with 80% approval. You think they're going to take a Muslim congresswoman out of Congress?
Well,
I don't think that's going to
they
happen.
better start doing these things, including Mom Donnie, because this is really getting out of control. It
Well,
is out
there's
of
it's
control.
very simple to take out these communists and the DSA. It's very simple. And
Yeah.
all it takes is an executive order by President Trump. All he has to do is basically put an executive order out declaring the Democrat Socialists of America as a bona fide terrorist organization.
Hmm.
Once he does that, now Besant and Treasury and all that can open up the books. They can find out that they're being funded by international terrorist groups, because I'm sure they are. And now all of a sudden, they're no longer a political wing of a party. They're now felons and they can't run for office.
Uh-huh.
So that's how you can take this out. The other thing you can do is you can go back to the 1954 Communist Control Act, bring that thing back, right? That wipes out CPUSA, the Communist Party USA. That's what it was designed for back in the day. And so there's a lot of things that we can do. We don't have to suffer with these cuckoo birds. And I call them cuckoo birds because if you look at the nesting habits, they're parasitic of the cuckoo bird. They go and they find a nest and they kick out the native birds and they
Mm.
nest in there. And then once they're grown, they actually allow the native birds to actually raise them until they're no more needed. And then they either kill them or kick them out and take over the nest. Well,
Uh-huh.
that's exactly what the Democrat Socialists of America are. They
Uh-huh.
are the cuckoo birds to the Democratic Party. The
Yeah.
Democratic Party is being used by them.
Yes, that's a very good point. All right. Well, we need to take a break,
Sure.
and we will be right back. My guest is Josh Bernstein. His book is called Preserving Liberty: Bold and Brave Solutions to Save America and Create Permanent Freedom. We will get to the solutions later in the show, so stay tuned. And welcome back to Dr. Carol's Couch. I'm your psychiatrist host, Dr. Carol Lieberman. Today we're talking about, is it possible to save America for another 250 years? My guest, I think, says yes. Josh Bernstein, back to you. Um, let's talk about. So wait, I'm not sure if we were finished with your. Well, I guess I was asking the question. You were talking about being
Yeah.
censored, and I
Yeah.
was asking the question about why there were so many people against you. And so the first thing was Ilhan Omar. The second thing was the voting irregularities.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
it's funny because, I mean, given that really Trump won in 2020,
Sure did.
um, that means that the majority of America voted for him.
That's
So
correct.
why, if you were talking about, if you were, and actually what you were raising was really the specter of elections being tampered with, because, and you had this proof. So it wasn't for Trump or for Biden. I mean, it was really just something about America. We have to worry about this. We should do something about this. Make sure the elections are safe.
Mhm.
So why, so who was against you there? Why were there so many people? I mean, like even on, I'm talking about like the places that you got bumped off of, like X. I
Mhm.
don't understand what is going on with X. We were talking about earlier about how you think you're shadow banned, and I think I'm shadow banned on X too, and I don't get it because, I mean, supposedly Elon Musk runs things, and I can't, there's nothing that I say that I think he would disagree with. But I read an article about how that it's very different people who are actually running the day-to-day operations of X than Elon Musk. Of course, he's not going to be sitting there, at the computer doing. But there's something wrong, something going on with that. Did you ever figure out what that would be when you were being censored?
Well, I think that when you have a powerful voice, when you're not afraid to tell the truth, blunt and boldly, you're a threat. There's a lot of people out there that are what I would consider controlled opposition, in which they will say a certain thing a certain way, but never go too far because they're worried about sponsors and commercials and advertisers and all that stuff. And I've never ever been like that. And so I've always just been blunt and have told the truth, no matter what the consequences were. And I think that that really put a target on my back. I mean, I've had death threats and all kinds of stuff throughout the years, but I've been at this since 2014, 15, somewhere around there is when I started. And so I thought in the Trump years that I'd be able to get back my YouTube channels. And you may remember, I think it was December of 2025, Jim Jordan came out and said that he worked something out with YouTube and everyone that was banned is going to get their channels back and this and that. So, of course, probably for the 40th time, I sent in an appeal that was denied. And so then I said, you know what? I'm going to reach out to Jim Jordan in his office, and
No.
I got a local office in Ohio, and I was able to reach someone. They knew who I was. They forwarded it to the House Judiciary Committee. Got a phone call back from the House Judiciary Committee, and they told me, and I explained everything. They knew who I was, and I explained, kind of what I said here, in a shorter version, of course. And they said, yes, we know who you are. And he said, let me check on some things and I'll call you back. So he called me back about maybe an hour later and he said, you're one of 50 people on a list that basically says special circumstances. And I said, well, what does that mean? He's like, well, you don't qualify for this appeal program to get your channels back. So I don't know who the other ones were. I would assume it's probably Laura Loomer, it's probably Alex Jones. But anyway, I'm quote unquote on that list. I was then told that this will be sent up to Jim Jordan and that Jim Jordan would look at this personally and try to get my accounts back. But
Uh-huh.
again, I'm still waiting and haven't heard anything back. So, yeah,
Uh,
in times of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act, sadly.
well, it seems like it seems like maybe there was something that you said that got one particular person with power angry. Not that like a general thing about you, but that like, someone who has power
Well,
with
like I said, they cut a 24-minute video down to 40 seconds and they didn't put the context of what I was talking about. They
yeah,
just used the word executed and
yeah,
they ran with that as they normally do on the left to try to be deceitful and hide, things that are being said. And that went viral basically. And what ended up happening is everyone started to reach out to, support at Amazon, support at Roku, support at Patreon, support at LinkedIn.
uh-huh.
So before I knew it, I was gone. I mean, it was
Okay,
just
well,
a
we will have
mob
a
hit.
chance. We will have a chance in the last segment to tell people where they still can find you.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
obviously not
There's
gone
a few
100%.
places. There's a few
Yes.
places.
One of the places, of course. is this book, your book, which has has comments, blurbs by lots of famous people, respectable people who who risk their reputations in putting their name, giving their recommendation, basically testimonial on your book. Um,
Mhm.
Again, it's called Preserving Liberty, Bold and Brave Solutions to Save America and Create Permanent Freedom. So, did you do this? Let's see, when did this come out?
This came out on October 8th of 2024. And it's interesting that date in particular because it was my son's 18th birthday and it was my late father's birthday. And it's
Uh-huh.
interesting that the publishing company picked that day
Uh-huh.
for its release. I wanted to get it out obviously before the election. I was taking a gamble. I didn't know which way it was going to go, but I
Uh-huh.
had a feeling it was going to go in a favorable way, and of course it did. But yeah, I started writing it in April, and June 15th was the deadline to get it in time for
Wrote
the
it between
election.
April and June. That's
I
pretty
did.
quick.
I did. And I wrote the whole thing. No chat
Uh,
GPT, none of that stuff. And
yeah.
it wasn't that hard because I just had a prep, just kind of like I thought, okay, I don't want to talk about all the woke stuff and all this other, let's just talk about how can we preserve liberty? What are the things that are tantamount to being able to achieve that? And so I just kind of kept it focused on that. And honestly, what I did was I went through a lot of my old shows from 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, and I went through them and I kind of rewatched them and said, oh, there, I could put that in the book and I could put that in the book and that.
Uh-huh.
And the next thing you know, I got, 150 pages, and it really wasn't that hard to do. I actually got it done, I think, like June 2nd or 3rd. So even before the June 15th deadline.
So now, and I'm just remembering that you had said that it was published by Charlie
Sky,
Kirk, by his
Skyhorse.
organization. What?
By Skyhorse Publishing. But yeah,
No, no,
it's
but oh well, yeah.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
it's an interesting story. So I go to the Turning Point events every year. And this would have been 2023, so December of 2023. And that year, for whatever reason, I didn't go on Sunday and I didn't go on Friday. I normally go all 3 days or 4 days, but I just went Saturday. And I went there with my wife and a friend of mine who does security for me.
And I was, wait,
And
let me just say,
okay,
and I was thinking when you said that you settled in Arizona, that's where Turning Point is.
correct,
Go ahead.
correct, yeah.
But you didn't know that when you settled there, or it was before
Um,
Turning Point,
oh
actually.
yeah, it was way before I got
Yeah,
here in
yeah, yeah.
1996. So,
Okay.
but well, I have a funny story, family connection actually with Charlie Kirk. But anyway, before I get to that, so I ended up going, and it was a Saturday, and I didn't care so much about the speeches. A lot of people like to watch the speeches. That's fine. I know a lot of the people that were given speeches, but I was walking around doing interviews on the spot, and I was getting interviewed by people and things like that. And Turning Point has grown to where Radio Row used to be just like one little area. Now it's like encompasses almost the whole thing. And then there's even Radio Row inside some of the auditoriums in uh,
Wait, Radio
in the
Row,
Civic Center
meaning stations that want to do interviews and
to
people.
do interviews and things like
Okay, go
that.
ahead.
Yeah. And so this thing is just gigantic now. I mean, we're talking football fields big, right? So I'm walking around and I'm doing spot interviews. I did about 4 or 5 spot interviews, and I'm walking around and I see this big banner, and it says Skyhorse Publishing, and I see a young girl standing there, and she's got a whole table of books. So I walk over and I'm like, "Oh, Dr. Ben Carson, he's been on my show. Oh, Dr. Robert Malone." So I'm pointing out all the people that I interviewed based on the books, and she goes, "Who are you?" So I explained who I was, and she goes, "Have you ever thought about writing a book?" And I said, many years ago when Obama was president, I wrote something called The Great Squanderer, how he used race the wrong way to divide the country. And I said, but I didn't really do anything with it. I kind of wrote it, it was like 10 pages, and I just kind of put it away and didn't bother with it. And she's like, well, that wouldn't be relevant today. And I said, no, probably not. She goes, but you should write something. You've interviewed a lot of our authors and things like that. You should write something and submit it. And I thought, yeah, maybe I'll do that. So I go home and I've known AJ for 10 plus years, good buddy of mine. And I noticed when he sent in his Publius, guest list, One of them was a guy named Tony Lyons. So I'm reading it, Tony Lyons, and all of a sudden it says, um, co-founder of RFK Jr.'s 2024 PAC and owner and founder of Skyhorse Publishing. I went, wait a minute, Skyhorse Publishing. So I grabbed the cards, that I collected. I'm flipping through, and I say, oh, Rachel Marble, executive, editor, whatever. And then I said, Sky, and then I said, wait a minute, this guy's the owner. Never mind her. So I called AJ and I said, AJ, I want Tony Lyons on the show
I
right
had him
away.
on my show too.
So Tony's a great guy,
Uh-huh.
fantastic guy. So I get Tony on the show. And my goal was to ask him directly if I could submit, something to him. And
Uh-huh.
of course, he was like, yeah, sure, no problem, no problem. But then he kind of threw a wrench in things and he offered me kind of like a job. And he
Yeah.
said, would you be interested in interviewing my authors? Because he was impressed with the interview. And I was like, sure, absolutely, it'd be great to do that. So he said, okay, no problem. I'll get Rachel to set it up. And so in January, every Friday, I had a new person that was an author at Skyhorse. And then same thing in February. I submitted my manuscript 15 pages on January 15th, and I didn't hear anything. So February, I'm interviewing all of his guests. Again, I don't hear anything. April, I'm interviewing, March, I'm interviewing all of his guests. I don't hear anything. So finally, towards the, I guess, end of March, I'm like, this is weird. I'm not hearing anything. Maybe I'll send it to some other places.
Mhm.
Well, Marlene, who you met, my right-hand person there, an
Mhm.
assistant, she said, let me see if I can get a hold of somebody. So she gets a hold of a senior editor. I don't want to drop his name because that's not right. But she gets a hold of this senior editor, and he reads the 15 pages, and we end up doing a 40-minute, call, basically like a Zoom call, like we're doing. And he says, I really want to do this book. He said, I'm very interested in being your editor and doing this book. Turns out he's done the last 7 books for Alan Dershowitz,
Oh,
including 3 of
wow.
his bestsellers. And he's worked with others as well, Ted Cruz, I think Roger Stone, a few others. And so he said, but it's not my call. So let me check with Tony and I'll get back to you. Now I'm thinking, a week, 2 weeks, right? I said, so is it a couple of weeks? He goes, no, about an hour. An hour? He goes, yeah, let me just talk to him, physically talk to him. I was, okay. So about 2 hours later, I get an email. Josh, we got the green light to do Preserving Liberty.
Uh-huh.
And it was such an incredible feeling. But the Charlie part of this is I never would have had the opportunity to get this book if it
Hmm.
wasn't for Charlie Kirk
Hmm.
and Turning Point. And the worst part, the absolute saddest part, is I can't thank him for it.
Mhm.
And that sucks. That
Mhm.
really sucks. But
Charlie was
that's
on this
yeah.
show,
Hmm.
um, and I asked him something that I'm sure other hosts don't generally ask. Um, I asked him what to tell me about his parents. How did his parents raise him? Like, how did his parents raise a Charlie Kirk? Like, what does it take to raise a Charlie Kirk? In other words, um, and he was a little taken aback, but he was. I mean, he answered the question, and of course, it had to do with. I mean, it was sort of like being a traditional American values, traditional values, that kind of thing, religion, all the things you might expect. But and all the things that American families don't do as much these days. Well, okay. So now what do we do? I'm trying to see where we are. Okay, we have enough time in this segment to for you to start. I was just going to say, maybe you could tell us about the main chapters that you have, or the main topics that you have in Preserving Liberty. Is you cover voter integrity,
Hmm.
balance the electorate to give every American a voice, end the class warfare argument,
Hmm.
reign in Washington permanently. Of course, we don't want to be reined in right now. They're doing too good a job. All the lawfare attorneys are doing too good a job nowadays in reigning in Washington. Um, I mean, the good part of Washington, they're reigning in, and the dark state is still in there, still doing their damage. Solve the immigration problem, control spending, restore accuracy in media, etc. So tell which part do you think? I mean, we all just have gone through the 250th anniversary. It
Mhm.
was very exciting. What did you do on the 200 on July 4th this year?
Well, I was with family, and of course, I went and saw the fireworks here locally, and
Mm,
just celebrated, just watched the firework display in DC, which was incredible. The music was incredible. It just was such an uplifting, patriotic time for the country. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I wish the Fourth of July was a week-long celebration
yes,
every year.
yes,
It's my favorite holiday, obviously, and we should really be celebrating it, closing everything down, and just celebrating, this incredible nation.
yes.
Um, Preserving liberty is basically exactly what it says: preserving liberty, bold and brave solutions to save America and create permanent freedom. People need to understand that what President Trump has done, for the most part, obviously, the One Big Beautiful Bill is a tremendous piece of legislation that thankfully was passed, but only 28 of his 300 plus executive orders have been codified into law, and those 28 are in the One Big Beautiful Bill. But the ones that are really, really important, they're not codified. So what does that mean? That means that, God forbid, in the future, all of these great gains can be reversed with other executive orders, which is why, as bluntly as I can say, create permanent freedom. Well, how do you create permanent freedom? How do you get past a left wing governor that wants to veto everything like we have in Arizona? Well, it takes civic activism. It takes signature, gathering. It takes ballot initiatives, because you have to go past and get it to the voters rather than just having it go through the legislature and then having it vetoed. So my book is kind of like a blueprint. It's almost like a textbook written in that sense on how to preserve our liberty. And there's obviously explanations of our issues and our problems, but then I give solutions on
Okay,
everything.
and we're gonna great. Perfect timing because we do need to take another break. When we come back, you can talk about some of the solutions. Um, and I'll just put in here, what I did for July 4th, as the terrorist therapist, uh, I warn people about, tell people not to stay home, but to be very, to look, look and if you see something, say something, and all of that kind of stuff. I went to the place in California that would be most likely in California to be, if terrorists were going to hit California on July 4th, which of course was I was saying was a big possibility, where would they go? They would go to the Hollywood Bowl. And that's where I went because that's it. They had great fireworks and they had the Beach Boys, which was total Americana and all of that. But I couldn't help thinking the whole time being there, this is the preeminent spot for terrorists. So
Yeah,
we're going to stop
unfortunately.
now. My guest is Josh Bernstein, and we'll be right back. Today's show, welcome back. This is Dr. Carol's Couch, and I'm your psychiatrist, Dr. Carole Lieberman. We're talking today about, is it possible to save America for another 250 years? And the reason why I was asking my guest, Josh Bernstein, about where he went is because all of us, it had to be on all of our minds while you were doing whatever you were doing for July 4th. Is this country going to last for another 250 years? And is it going to still be a land of freedom? If it wasn't on your mind, it should have been, because we need to do something in order for it to be continue to be a land of freedom. We can't just just live our life and not think that we have to be responsible for doing something to preserve our country. So, one of the things that so I want to ask Josh now to tell us some of the highlights of his book, to the solutions, because the book is called Preserving Liberty, Bold and Brave Solutions to Save America and Create Permanent Freedom. So I want to hear about some of the solutions, but I want to say also this is such perfect, I can't take any credit for this, but this is kind of perfect timing for this show, this topic, and you today, because we have to acknowledge the really sad passing, tragic passing of Lindsey Graham, who was an incredible patriot. This is something he thought about, doing something to keep America free and a democracy, and what can we do to help to keep America strong and all of that. He thought of that every day. And he was 71 years old when he died. And after coming back from being at the NATO meeting and then going to Kiev, to Ukraine, to talk with Zelensky, and every day was planned where he was doing something more for America. And of course, I like to think that that's. I mean, I don't have as much power. As Lindsey Graham, but that's how I spend my days too. In particular, my current project that's been ongoing for the past year and a half is writing the diagnostic criteria for Trump derangement syndrome.
Those
And
measurements.
my plan, my work. I mean, it's been taking most of my days for like a year and a half, and with the goal that I will be doing before September
Telling you
to
it's the nose rings.
what?
I'm
Oh,
telling you
that's
it's the
right.
nose
That's
rings.
right. Yes. Um, to present it to the American Psychiatric Association for inclusion in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual to help people who have Trump derangement syndrome and to help the people around them who are suffering as well. So, not that not trying to compare this to the work of Lindsey Graham, but I'm just trying to say that we all should be doing this kind of stuff. Something, whatever you can do, And of course, my guest Josh Bernstein has been doing a lot as well, as we've been hearing. We've been hearing some of it. He does more, with his show, um, and
Hmm.
on a weekly basis, um,
Daily.
daily basis, is
Hmm.
it?
Yep.
Uh, God, that's a lot to
Seven
do.
days a week.
That's a lot.
I always say the same thing. The left never takes a day off from trying to destroy the country, so I don't take a day off from trying to defend it.
Okay. Well, that's good. I didn't realize it was every day. And where can people while we're talking about
You
it,
can, yeah,
where can people
you can go to Substack. So it's jbushow.substack.com. If you see it there on the barn, I put there. So jbushow.substack.com. And if you join and become a paid member and you do a year up front, it's only $49 for the year. So that's like $4.08 a month for at least, I'd say, 7 to 10 shows, maybe even 14 or 15 shows every week. Because each day I'll do 2 to 3 segments typically. And so you'll get the best content you could ever imagine. If you become a paid member, again, you'll also get a free PDF, not full book, but PDF full book copy of Preserving Liberty. All paid members get that. But again, you can also go to Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, Target, Walmart. I don't know all of them, but Amazon is the best one because that's the best one for the algorithm. So you can go
Ah,
to Amazon and pick up the book.
okay. Great. Okay, so let's talk about it. First of all, let's just a little side thing, and before you get to your solutions. And obviously we're not going to get to all of them, but you're going to talk about some of the ones, your favorites. What do you think happened to Lindsey Graham?
Well, look, I mean, his father was 69 years old and died of sudden cardiac arrest as well. He was 71, so this could have been something hereditary. However, he was also, a war hawk from the standpoint of very anti-Iranian regime, which of course is a good thing. And he was definitely someone on their radar. So who knows? There could have been foul play here. Perhaps maybe he was injected with something and induced. I mean, I don't know. I think a toxicology report. I know some of the members of Congress and the Senate have been talking about waiting to see what the toxicology report shows. But I mean, who knows? It's really hard to say. He was a patriot. He was not very good on immigration, of course, right? He
What do you
was
mean not
definitely,
very
well, he was
good?
definitely for open borders and amnesty for pretty. I used to call him Lindsey Grahamnesty, but he did what he was supposed to do for the judges and things like that, and he had some conservative bona fides, but really he was more of an establishment, rhino as they call him, Republican in name
Oh,
only.
I kind of disagree with that, but we're not going to spend the
Yeah,
whole
yeah.
spend that much
Well, if
time
you look at
talking
his
about him. But
conservative scorecard, it's in the 60s or 50s. So
well, but
usually you
okay,
want someone 80s and
but
90s.
certainly in the most recent past, what he was working on now when he died,
Yeah, and he was
was
for the Save Act, so that was good.
yes, and he
Yeah.
was also very much for what Trump wants to do in terms of, in fact, I think it might have been, I don't know if it was who's, he was very much for the idea of sanctions, certain kinds of sanctions against Russia to try to try to get the war to stop. And what was the other thing? And oh well, and yes, of course, Iran. Iran, he was one of Iran's top targets. They had pictures of him.
Yes, they did.
And so I actually tweeted twice about this because I'm concerned. I mean, yes, of course, it could have been a heart problem, but
Yeah.
and the I mean, what they're saying is that it was a split aorta that his
Yeah.
aorta that divided, but which of course that could happen, especially with heredity genes, related to heart. And it also can happen, then I haven't seen anything about this, but it sometimes can happen when people do CPR a little too vigorously. But I'm really thinking more that it had something to do with that he was poisoned in some way or attacked in some way.
Yeah, I
Some
mean, anything's possible. I mean,
because of where he was, Turkey,
yeah,
Turkey and
yeah,
Ukraine, there would have been people. So I
yeah,
tweeted about urging them to do
yeah. And he
toxicology
was, he
tests.
was the head of the Judiciary Committee. I mean, he was the chairman. It's a pretty powerful position to be. That's the person that's going to bring President Trump's agenda through the Senate. So
Mhm.
I worry about that. I know his sister is now taking
Yes.
over. I'm really hoping this was not another Harriet Myers type situation, if you know who I'm talking
No,
about.
I don't know what you're talking
Harriet Myers was George W. Bush's chief of staff.
about. Uh-huh.
And when there was an opening on the Supreme Court, he wanted Harriet Myers to be his nominee. And of course, the right said, absolutely not, no way. And she either dropped out or was,
Uh-huh.
whatever happened. And then, of course, we got Justice John Roberts, who, by the way, became Chief Justice without ever serving 1 second on the court. You know how?
No, no.
Because William Rehnquist died during the confirmation hearing. Okay. And so instead of finding someone else with more seniority, perhaps a Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito wasn't on the court yet, somebody else on the court, he said, just make him Chief Justice. And then Alito was the second pick, and he ended up being the better pick, obviously, of the two. So imagine if he would have picked Alito and put Alito up on the Supreme Court as Chief Justice instead of Roberts, it'd be a completely different court, but I digress. So that's how John Roberts ended up becoming
Well,
Chief Justice.
fortunately, Lindsay's sister, the governor, did appoint. I mean, Trump recommended her,
Yeah, well,
and
I hope
then the
she's for
governor
the Save
did
Act.
pick her.
Yeah, I hope she's for the Save Act and for,
I mean,
bringing up his agenda.
I mean, I think that I mean, presumably the two of them talked a lot,
I
and
would
she
hope so.
knows what he had in mind.
I
All
kind of
right.
wanted Jim DeMint. Remember Senator Jim, I'm showing my age, but Senator Jim DeMint from 2005 to 2012, he was the head of the Heritage Foundation, MAGA to the core. That's who I was hoping it was going to be, but oh well.
Well, there still is going to be an election down the road, so
Mhm.
okay. So tell us about what is your favorite, what are, oh, we don't, God, we've been talking so much.
Well, I don't necessarily
What are
know if
your
it's my
favorite
favorite,
solutions?
but what happened on October 18th, 2019 at the, what was the name? The Pierre Hotel in New York City. The
Somebody,
planning.
Somebody took
of
their mistress there. I don't
COVID.
know.
COVID was created and planned on that day at that hotel, and all the heads of industry were at that conference. And it was sponsored by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation,
Mhm.
the John Hopkins Center for Security and Policy, and the World Economic Forum. And you had the heads of every single sector of society. You had from our Deputy Director of National Intelligence, Avril Haines, was at the table. You had people like Brad Connett, who was ran one of the largest medical supply companies. You had someone by the name of Asi Tagi, who worked for NBC and CBS. So you have to be able to sell it right in the media. You
Mhm.
had people from Johnson and Johnson there. You had even someone from the CCP, George Gow, was at the table. So my book really goes into depth on a lot of topics, but of course, COVID, I explain, was it a lab leak or was it a wet market? And clearly, it was a lab leak. Whether it was intentional or not, that can't be proven. Although we did have the Dr. Jing Lee, or the Bat Lady, who worked with Ralph Barrick in
Yeah.
North Carolina, and Eco Health Alliance, and Peter Daszak, and so many of these others that all should be in prison as far as I'm concerned. So I go through all of that. I use their emails, the FBI and CIA's emails against them. And then I talk about different ways that we can preserve liberty. You know, we talk about the southern border, and it's wonderful that President Trump has closed down the southern border and building the border wall and all that. But what about the northern border? What about the Swanson section of Vermont that has a 560% increase in people coming across?
Okay,
You
but
know,
I'm
good.
just trying to, because we only have 4 minutes
Oh
left.
boy, we're gonna have to have another
So
show.
I'm just trying to get you to put that into a column here. Like
Yeah.
what does COVID have to do with saving solution a solution for America?
Well, again, a lot of people don't know about Event 201 and how it was put together. And so that was just one chapter. But I'll give you a real quick
I mean, but what should we
example.
be doing? I mean, I totally agree with you that this
Yeah.
was a thing put upon the American people, number one, to get us used
Well, we
to
need to
listening.
hold all of the heads of these pharmaceutical companies accountable,
Okay.
including Dr. Fauci, as I like to call him,
I
Dr.
had a
Fauci.
website, pleasefirefauci.com,
Yeah.
during
I've
all the
said that
time
in
of
my book.
COVID.
I actually say he is one of the world's most prolific mass murderers, right
Yes.
next to Adolf Hitler. Because if you take the million people
Yes.
that sadly died in the United States and the other 10 or 11 million around the world, I mean, he's a prolific mass murderer and he should be held accountable.
Absolutely.
But I mean, even beyond that,
But
I talk.
what I'm trying to get at in the 3 minutes that we have left is
Mhm.
what is the message to that people should take from that? I'm not questioning. Of course, that was
Yeah,
horrible. It was to get us to be used to listening to power. We're supposed to stay in our homes. It's say take the vaccine. All of that.
yeah, yeah.
But what can people learn from that? What do you want people to do?
Never trust the government. Never trust the government in as far as lockdowns. We talked about this briefly when you were on my show
Yes.
and the damage that that has done.
Mhm.
But just, be civically active. If I could leave any imparting information, be civically active because, the American people are the ones with all the power, not the politicians. The politicians think they have the power, but they don't. The people do. The only issue is they either don't realize it or they don't know how to use it. And what my book shows you is exactly how to be a grassroots activist, hardcore guerrilla
Perfect.
warfare type of stuff at the state level, the local level. Because remember, all politics are local. And eventually, when you change local politics, eventually you can change national politics. So, like I said, it's really a
Perfect.
book. It's the Bible for the grassroots, is really what it is.
Perfect. Perfect way to end. And again, the title, in case you can't read it. Well, this is both going out on Facebook and on radio as well.
Yeah, and just real
So,
quick, it's endorsed by Alan Dershowitz, so the famous defense attorney. It's
uh-huh.
endorsed by Roger Stone, and Congressman Paul Gosar from the Freedom Caucus, good buddy of mine. He wrote the foreword to the book. And remember, this went through a legal review, so every single thing in here is 100% accurate, and it's not self-published. This was done through a publishing company and all that good stuff. So pick it up. get a free copy at jbushow.substack.com. You can also follow me at RealJBUShow on X and
What is
not too
the
many other
U? What is this
places.
JBU? What's you?
Josh Bernstein Uncensored.
Ah,
I
there we
used to have a
go.
website which was joshbernsteinuncensored.com, but after, I don't know, 37 DDoS attacks, and I can't count how many countries between China, Russia, Belarus,
Wow.
Canada, you name it, it got too expensive for the security to keep the website up. So now I'm on Substack, and it's good because I don't have to pay for the thousands and thousands of dollars in security to keep being able to talk each day.
Okay, and let me just say the title again. I mean the it's jbushow.substack.com. Well,
Yep.
thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
on the show. It's always interesting to talk with you. We
My
never run out
pleasure.
of things.
Anytime, any topic.
Okay, thank you. And
God
thank
bless.
you all for listening. You've been listening to Dr. Carol's Couch, and I'm your psychiatrist host, Dr. Carol Lieberman.